Hanoi is one of the most polarizing cities in Vietnam. Some people fall in love with this city, and others say that you should leave as soon as you can. Horrible traffic, tourist scams, and the chaos of the downtown areas are some of the most common complaints.
I don't think I've ever seen this many people in one place.
This city is home to more than 8.5 million people with 8.6 million international tourists every year. So of course it is an absolute chaos. And for many people it's their first impression of the whole country of Vietnam. But despite all the negatives, Hanoi remains as one of the most visited cities in the world. And honestly, I get it. This place is full of history, cultural significance, great energy, and great food. If you know where to look, this city will always surprise you.
I'm not here to convince you to love Hanoi. I want to help you to make a decision whether Hanoi is a place worth visiting or just a place to pass through.
We have a few days in this city, so let's get started.
You know, one of the first things I've noticed being here in Hanoi, it's currently 8 in the morning and it's so busy already. You can hear the cars honking all the time and the bikes and all that stuff. So I'm not even anywhere close to the city center, like to the busy area.
Traffic is one of the most well-known problems in Hanoi. No matter where you are in the city, you will be surrounded by hundreds of bikes and cars. And as many people find out sooner or later, the traffic will not stop for you when you try to cross the street.
When you're crossing the traffic, you just have to do it. There's so many bikes all around you at all points, so you just have to go for it.
When you're visiting Hanoi for the first time, you will most likely want to go straight to the most popular part of this city, the Old Quarter. And that's where the true chaos of this city begins.
One of the first things you see here, apart from all the noise, is that there's really no sidewalks. So you're just kind of walking on the street and you're hoping that no one hits you.
The Old Quarter is the oldest and most popular part of Hanoi, and most of the 8.6 million tourists that come to Hanoi every year will most likely pass through this area. And because of that, the streets are filled with thousands of people, and the traffic is at its worst. For that reason, most people want to leave Hanoi as soon as possible.
But this is the oldest area of Hanoi, and there is so much history here, and there's a reason why things are the way they are. And I just think that if people knew about the history of this place, they would be much more likely to stick around and explore.
The history of Hanoi dates back to the early 11th century, when Vietnam's capital was first moved to this site. This moment marked the beginning of Hanoi as Vietnam's political and cultural heart. Because Hanoi has remained central ever since, it is often called a 1,000-year capital. The Old Quarter was the most central part of that old capital. It started forming in the early 11th century when craftsmen and traders began to settle outside of the Imperial Citadel. Over time, streets became organized by trade, forming the famous 36 streets that people still walk through today.
So this is Hang Gai, or the Street of Silk, and as the name suggests, this is the place where they used to make silk and sell silk. And today the purpose of this street is pretty much the same. You can see many of the shopping stalls next to me where you can buy clothes and stuff like that. And this is one of the oldest streets in Hanoi. So most people just come here, they see it's a busy area, they buy some stuff and then they leave. But if you know the history of this place, it makes the whole experience more enjoyable.
As you walk through the Old Quarter, you might notice that this area has a very unique look to it, especially in the architecture.
One of the things you're going to see a lot in Hanoi are these very, very narrow houses. And the reason why these houses are so narrow is because historically they used to be really high tax for wide buildings. So the wider the building, the more tax you're going to pay. So most people just built very narrow houses, but very long instead. And if you walk around the Old Quarter, you're going to see that a lot.
One of the most famous places in the Old Quarter that almost everyone will find out sooner or later is the Beer Street.
And I want you to keep in mind how quiet this place is right now, because I have a feeling that when we come back here tonight, it's going to be a whole different vibe.
When the sun goes down, that's when Hanoi truly wakes up. If you thought that the streets are busy during the day, it's nothing compared to now. The Old Quarter is absolutely packed with people. Restaurants are full, people drinking on the street, and live performances on every corner. Remember the Beer Street from earlier? This is how it looks now.
I don't think I've ever seen this many people in one place.
Just walking through the crowd is a challenge, and of course the traffic doesn't stop. But the energy of this place is unmatched. Everyone is so happy around you, the music is always playing, and I finally understood why people praise Hanoi's nightlife so much. This is something everyone should experience in this city. Now that we have explored the Old Quarter, it's time to go and see the most famous attraction in Hanoi, the one that's on everyone's minds when they think of this city.
So I'm here on the train street here in Hanoi. You can see how absolutely gorgeous that is.
The train runs 5 times per day, and if you want to see it, you will have to buy a drink at one of the nearby cafes. And just before the train arrives, you will get a warning to get out of the way, to keep the safe distance. Now you might be asking yourselves, why is this even here? Why does the train run so close to people's houses? That's because in 1902 this whole area became a part of French Indochina, and the French actually built this railroad. And instead of moving to a different area, the locals adapted to this new way of life and built houses around the train tracks. So you can thank the French for this tourist attraction.
And speaking of the French, now we're gonna go and see another area that the French had a huge influence on.
Only a few minutes away from the Old Quarter, you will find the French Quarter. And as the name suggests, this whole area was built by the French.
We are entering the French Quarter right now, and the first things that you might notice are these houses right here. They're very, very European. The whole style is European. And as I said before, this whole area became a part of French Indochina in 1902. So there's a huge French influence in this area. And as we go through it and explore, you will see more and more of it.
The French Quarter is the complete opposite of the Old Quarter. Instead of narrow streets, long houses, and horrible traffic, you will find wide boulevards, plazas, and European-style buildings. It shows the influence that the French had on Vietnam for decades. And it's a reminder of Hanoi's troubling history. And speaking of history, now it's time to explore one of the most important locations in Hanoi, the Temple of Literature.
Thank you.
The Temple of Literature is a temple dedicated to Confucius, as well as the oldest university in Vietnam, formed in the early 11th century. The temple has 4 courtyards, each offering something different. And in the third courtyard, you can find 82 stone tablets, placed on the backs of turtles. The turtle symbolizes longevity and wisdom, and the tablets show achievements of students who once lived and studied here, and those who passed the royal exams. And in the fourth and final courtyard, you will find a temple dedicated to the philosopher Confucius.
There's so much history in this place, and just thinking about the hundreds of thousands of people who went through these doors in the past. You just have to spend some time here, enjoy what it has to offer, and look at that. I couldn't be more happy right now.
The sun was slowly setting, so it was time to go back to the train street we were on this morning and see how different the experience is. I almost didn't recognize the street. This morning I was able to enjoy my coffee and it was easy to find a spot to watch the train. But now there's hundreds of people on the street, the cafes are full and everything feels more chaotic. But on the other side, the setting looks more beautiful because all the lights are on and the energy feels much higher. I can see why most people prefer to watch the train in the afternoon.
Good morning everyone, this is our final day in Hanoi and I saved the best for last. So just to start off, right on the side of the street you can see this gate. It's the northern gate of the ancient core of Hanoi, and if you keep going past the gate you will actually reach the ancient citadel or the ancient fortress, which we're going to see a little bit later in this video.
The old citadel is a huge complex, starting with the northern gate. But before going there, I wanted to visit the most famous pagoda in Hanoi. And that's when I made a huge mistake. Because I wasn't dressed properly, I got turned around.
So guys, don't be like me. If you're gonna visit the Buddhist temple, make sure that you have your knees and shoulders covered. I knew all of that, but I forgot. I forgot to do it today, I don't know why. So Sinisha from the future here, from a much, much colder Hanoi, and I'm finally dressed properly for this. So let's check out this pagoda, or a Buddhist temple, and let's see what we can find inside.
Tran Quoc Pagoda is the oldest pagoda in Hanoi, located on a small island near the West Lake. The original temple was built in the 6th century in a different part of Hanoi, but then it was moved to the current location in the 17th century. The temple is still active and most of the prayers occur before the tourists start arriving to the site. The temple looks impressive, with so many stories to tell, if you know what you're looking at.
One of the things you're going to see a lot in this temple are these pink lotus flowers right here. Actually, in Buddhist temples, lotus flowers represent purity, enlightenment, and spiritual awakening. And you're going to see a lot of them in this temple. Usually they're in white, blue, or pink color. In this temple, they're predominantly pink. and that's because the pink lotus flower represents the Buddha. It's a primary lotus flower for Buddha. But now it's time to go back to the present and continue exploring.
Now that we explored the pagoda, it's time to go back to the Citadel complex. The Imperial Citadel was built in the early 11th century, and it served as the political center of Vietnam. This ancient complex was home to emperors, royal courts, and military leaders through several dynasties. Today, this citadel is free to explore. You can walk around the main courtyard, climb the stairs to the top of the southern gate, and you can learn all about the recent findings in this area.
So this place became UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2010, I believe, and the excavations are still going on today. And if you're a history lover, even if you love history a little bit, I think this place is a must visit because look at that.
As you walk through this complex, keep in mind that you're following in the footsteps of emperors, generals, courtiers, and thousands of other people throughout history who passed through these gates.
So after spending a few days in Hanoi, I can definitely understand why some people don't like it. It's busy, it's crowded, the traffic is horrible, but honestly, I fell in love with this city. There is so much history here, culture, the food is amazing, the coffee is amazing, and I couldn't be more happy to be here. So is Hanoi a good first impression of Vietnam? Well, that entirely depends on what you're looking for. Some people are not going to like it, no matter what I say in this video, and some people like me are going to love it, so it's very subjective. But I hope this video gave you some valuable information about the city, and honestly, I cannot wait to be back here. You know, some places can seem crazy and overwhelming at the beginning, but sometimes those are the places that stay with you the longest. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.